Hello, welcome to this lesson where we're going to quickly look at some key terminology involved with taking samples or collecting data. The first one is population. Now, population is everyone that we're concerned about. For example, if we're trying to make a statement about Year 9 girls, the population is all Year 9 girls. It's everyone who could possibly be involved. If we're trying to work out something about Australian citizens, it's all Australian citizens. If we're concerned with Year 9 girls at Tara, our population is Year 9 girls at Tara. So it's everyone that we're making this statement about. The next word is a sample. So sample is just a part of a population. Now, it's often unreasonable for us to try to ask everyone an entire sample or population. I can't go to every person in Australia and survey them myself, though this does happen in a census. A sample is where we take a part of our population. So it's a part So the sample is a part of a population. Now, the size of the sample is important. If I'm making a statement about Tara girls and I take just one girl, ask her what her favorite color is and she says orange, I can't then say that 100% of Tara girls like orange. I need to take a big enough number of people that it's going to be about the same as what the population would tell me. And a number that we like to use is the square root of n. So n being the size of the population. So if there are 100 girls at Tara, to get a reasonable sample, we'd want to get the square root of 100. So we'd want to have 10 girls interviewed. Again, this isn't going to be the exact same data as the population, but it will get us closer to that. The next one comes under sample and is called a random sample. The reason we want to do a random sample is to avoid any sort of bias. So we want to use a random sample to avoid bias. And now bias is a difficult word and one that you may not have heard before. It just means we don't want to be bringing up something that's not actually represented in the data. We don't want to be saying something that isn't actually true of our population. For example, if I chose 10 people who were studying IST, asked them on a scale of 1 to 10 how confident they were with the computer, and they came to an average of about 8. That wouldn't be then fair for me to say that in Australia people are about level 8 out of 10 confident in using a computer. We want to avoid bias by using a random sample. A random sample is any sample that's collected randomly, or the people that are being used are chosen randomly. You could do this by going by postbox, choosing just a hair color in a class, a random number generator and just choosing people by number. There's a range of ways of doing this. The whole point is to avoid bias and avoid ideas coming up that aren't actually true of what the real situation is. Finally, we have a census. And a census is when we collect data on the whole population. Okay, so in Australia, it's very easy to use the word census because we have a census where everyone in Australia over a certain age has to fill it out and give a whole ton of data. This information is collected and used by the government and different organisations. There, the whole population, or at least over a certain age, is required to take a census. But a census doesn't just mean that situation. If I were surveying, making a statement about Tara girls and I asked every single Tara girl, that would be called a census. So a census is just when we do the whole population, and it's not necessarily just the official Australian census. Next, we're coming to ways that we can collect data and types of data that we get as a result. So observation is data that we can collect by looking ourselves. So I could observe people in a playground and count how many people are using phones or eating a certain type of food, or I could stand by the road and count how many red cars go past. So observation is data that I or you see. Next, we have primary and secondary data. An observation usually comes under primary data because it's data that you collected. So primary data is data you collect, or I collect. If you're writing down notes, it's data you or that I collect. And secondary data is someone else collects. So when we talk about primary data, we're talking about data that you personally have collected. When we go to secondary data, this is going online to websites or other research that's been done and taking that data to use. So primary data you might collect through a poll or through talking to people or through observation and different methods. Secondary data you'll often find online or in books, etc. I hope that makes sense. That's just a quick overview of some of the key terminology that we need to understand for this topic. Thank you.